Hi guys, this is Michelle from Bombshell.com, and I'm here today with Amanda. Is it Farough? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, it's Farough.
Farough. Okay, Amanda Farough of VioletMinded Design, who is one of my favorite geeky people on the internet. And she has fantastic eyeshadow too. I don't know if you'll be able to see the eyeshadow, but the
Right
eyeshadow is
here.
looking fabulous. So, Amanda, I just wanted to talk some about how you ended up doing what you're doing because if I'm remembering right, you're fairly young, like me, right? Aren't you in like mid 20s, early mid 20s?
I just turned 26 3 days ago.
Oh, happy birthday!
Thank you.
So, do you want to just maybe talk a little bit about how you ended up doing what you're doing, like your journey into entrepreneurship and design specifically?
Sure. So I have a background in computer science, which is where I started, and I graduated from that in like 2007. Got my first job. It was fantastic for the first 6 months, and then it got really bad, and then I got fired because I refused to work slave labor for slave hours. Yeah, it was bad. It was really, really bad. They paid me like $12 an hour, and they expected me to work 16 hours a day as a programmer, and I was like,
No.
we're not doing that anymore. How about we don't and say we did, because I'm not doing that. So fast forward to, I think it was like 2008, I did a stint in design school for a semester and decided that was for pretentious douche canoes and promptly dropped out. I did a lot of soul searching in 2008, 2009 to figure out what the hell it was I wanted to do. I worked at Best Buy. I was a career counselor for like 6 months at like 23 years old. Because, 23-year-olds, they know so much about careers. Like, so much. And then I guess I started Violet Minded in August of 2009. And I had $50 on my credit card to start this website, and I just sort of went into it full force. I started getting jobs off of Craigslist and started really hustling it, and that's sort of the precursor to where I am today. I've been designing websites since I was 14, so that'll give you a bit of background as to almost half my life has been on the internet. Actually,
Yeah.
more than half my life has been on the internet. I've just been designing since I was 14. And actually, my dad and my grandfather and my great-grandfather and my great-great-grandfather and my great-grandmother, they were all entrepreneurs. So it's in my veins. It's in my DNA to be an entrepreneur. So I like to attribute some of my success to that. That's for sure.
That's cool. So, the work that you do, like with design, I really like the way that you've got it, that you talk about it on your site, because it's not just design. It's not like we're going to make your website look pretty. It's like this much deeper thing, and the way it's all, you can tell that the way it's built and the way it's structured, it goes into that. So can you talk maybe a little bit about that and how, like, did you start doing just design and it evolved into that, or were you always doing more than just design, or?
I think it started off as just design. I was just mostly trying to make ends meet and, pay bills. So I gave my clients what they wanted, and they wanted a pretty website. There wasn't a whole lot of context. There wasn't a whole lot of why. In 2000 and towards the end of 2010, I was pregnant with my son, who is in the background. You can hear him. Actually, you can see him. See, there's the little guy right there. He's having breakfast. Anyway, at the end of 2010, I realized that I was becoming just like every other designer out there, where it was just slap together something in Photoshop and then deliver it to a client and then done. I mean, there was a lot more that went into it, into the client side, where I've built a reputation on being, this extremely loving, extremely compassionate person, and I love my clients, and, I would go to the moon for them. But it wasn't until the end of 2010 where I really started considering context and why. And that is how Violet Minded Design is different than a lot of the other designers out there, is that the question of why drives absolutely every decision in every design that I do, and that my team partakes in as well. So down to copy and code and everything. Everything's got to answer the question of why in a really, really powerful way.
I think that's fascinating, and I think that's one of my favorite things about like entrepreneurism and working with entrepreneurs is the feeling of like the people I work with specifically, because not, I mean, you know, there are people who get into business just to make money. But like the people that I work with specifically and the people that the circles that I tend to run in, there's this whole theme of like artistry and like doing something, not just slapping something together or doing it because of the money, but doing it with like a bigger why behind it and like with passion. I know that's like such an overused word, but like, you know what I mean? Like passion.
But it is passion. It's art. It's being an artisan in your particular line of work, being a real craftsman.
Yeah.
And I think that is extremely important in any creative pursuit, whether you're a writer or a designer or a painter or, you know, what have you, or even a coder, really. I mean, I spent so many years being a coder, and I married a programmer, and he tells me all the time, "Oh, Amanda, I'm totally not creative." I'm like, dude, you take requirements and you build things from you do that. You make it literally come out of thin air.
Yeah.
You're creative. You know things. You're a craftsman. So I think that in any creative pursuit, it's extremely important to consider yourself a craftsman, an artist.
I would agree. I really like the word artisan. I haven't heard anyone use that in a while, but I really like the word like artisan as it applies to that.
Yeah.
So, is there, okay, I know that the answer, just from my own experiences, I know that the answer to this is already going to be yes, but like if you can think of something that like you're willing to share where you've run into like some hard times maybe with your business and
oh yeah.
and like how, you know, like what pulled you through that, like if any tips or tricks you have when there's like I think of it as like we hear about in like the woo woo new agey circles, we hear about the dark night of the soul type thing, and it's like
yes.
There's totally like a dark night of the business.
Just like there's a dark side of the moon, there's a dark side of the business. Oh man, 2010 was a tough year. It was my first official quote unquote year in business, where I actually had paying clients. And because I was taking on so much, I was working 16-hour days like I was as a freaking programmer. I was probably getting paid less than what I was getting paid as a programmer. And so yeah, I think that in 2010 I really hit rock bottom probably around November. I found I was pregnant with my guy the end of October. So I mean that sort of explained a little. But not all of it. I was extremely unsatisfied, and I actually considered just throwing in the towel. I'm like, clearly I'm not cut out for this entrepreneurial shit. I just can't do it. So I applied for a job with a good friend of mine. Well, we're good friends now. Back then, we were only really acquaintances. So I applied for a project management job at her design firm, and I was like, dude, I'm amazing at project management. I can do this. And she's like, no, I'm not giving you the job. I'm going to tell you why. And she told me, Amanda, I'm not giving you the job because I need to see where you can take VioletMinded. I want to see you really, really thrive. You're very talented, and you got this. So I went and I did a whole bunch of soul searching and reading about how to actually, build a real business as opposed to a solopreneur business. And I came back with a vengeance in 2011. With a vengeance. It was VioletMinded 2, Electric Boogaloo, or something. Menacing or not. VioletMinded isn't really menacing. But yeah, that's really what helped me, is that having that extra push from someone who actually looked at my work and believed in me and said, you know what, you're better than working some schlub job, even though it was for her. She's like, you need to create your own destiny and do your thing. You're too young to give up. So I was like, okay.
If you insist.
Fine. Jeez, thanks for believing in me.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like, it's kind of one of those things that I personally have mixed feelings about, because I feel like all the stuff that's out there on business, it's like at either end of the spectrum. Like, there's the people who are like, oh, it's going to really suck, and it's going to really, really suck, and you're going to have to pull yourself through it. And then there are the people who are like, oh, it's going to be rainbows and bunny farts all the time. And
unicorn poops.
well, and it's like it kind of bothers me that we don't often have like more nuanced discussions going on, or like I feel like we don't, because there are people that I've talked to, there are people that I know that I'm friends with who are like, yeah, like I've given up. There have been times when I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna hit Craigslist and apply for jobs, and like I've done
it
that.
happens. You reach that point. Okay, hold on, like 1 second.
No problem. No, I lost.
We're talking about business books and how they're either on the one end of the spectrum or the other, and we don't have a lot of conversations that land in the middle that talk about the good and the bad.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I feel like, I mean, it's one of those things that it's like, I just wish that we had more nuance, and that's really one of the only things that really bothers me about the online world, because I'm like you, you said you've spent over half your life on the internet, and like I grew up in this really small town, and so like having conversations on the internet was like talking to strangers on the internet around like video games actually was
right.
Yeah, was like my first experience with people that like I felt like didn't reject me and all this stuff. So like I love the internet, and it really one of my pet peeves is when people start like the technophobe type bashing for no reason, which I know that you've written about. I'll link to that in the interview notes because I really like that post.
Yeah.
But that's one of the only things that I feel like really bothers me about the internet, is that a lot of times so many of the discussions are lacking in nuance, and I feel like that's one of the places where it's definitely true that there's not really a whole lot that talks about like, yes, there is like nothing else I would rather be doing. And for me, like there's just, there's really not that many other options, because it's like I don't, I'm not traditionally educated, and I have other friends like that who have ended up working for themselves that way. But like there are times when it sucks, and like you're just going to want to sit in bed with a tub of Ben and Jerry's and feel pissy all day and look at jobs on Craigslist.
Or look at apartments on Craigslist. That's my vice. Oh my god, I love looking at apartments on Craigslist. Yeah, I think that there's plenty of times where we get ourselves in situations where it just seems like it would be easier to go back and get a job in traditional employment. And I could go back to software anytime, really. I mean, I've been out of the game now for 4 years. But I don't miss working in that environment. Like, my husband works in that environment. So, I mean, I go and I observe him in his natural habitat. And it's like, I don't know, it's lackluster. And there's no flexibility and there's no freedom. And I can't just pick up and go to lunch with my girls if well, I mean, it's hard enough to do that with this guy over here. But adding a job on top of that is just, for me, it's not an option. It's not even remotely an option. I may be traditionally educated and I may have tons of experience, but why? Why would I do that to myself again? Like, that's just dumb. I'd rather slog it out as a business owner, go through the trials and tribulations and the ups and the downs, the feast and the famine, if you will, than go back and get just a steady paycheck, because I feel like it's a chain. It's a noose.
Yeah. So, is there anything when you're having one of those like really shitty, want to throw in the towel but not really type days, is there anything that you do that makes you feel better?
I go blow shit up in video games. Yeah, I just go play a lot of video games. I have my toned down ritual for working. I have to take, like, I can't work on Thursdays at all. I don't know, never got the hang of Thursdays. We're not friends. We parted ways a couple years ago, so I don't work on Thursdays. I play video games on Thursdays. And I feel like having that interlude in, close to the middle of the week or close to the end of the week is exactly what I need to recharge my batteries, so I don't go completely batshit insane with the working. But yeah, my recharge time is usually go play video games.
I like it.
So that's what I suggest for everybody. Just go find a game you really like and then just go kill something. Because you won't kill things in real life. I mean, we're all happy, friendly people here. We don't actually want to kill each other. We just just need to blow things up on the internet sometimes.
Sometimes. Okay, I think that covers really everything. I did want to wrap with if you had like maybe three. The original idea I had was like 2 or 3 suggestions for people to improve their online home, but I know that our conversation kind of meandered around all these different topics, so maybe like what you would like the top 3 takeaways for people to have like coming away from this interview, or like that you feel are just really important in general.
Cool. I like that. Top 3 takeaways for this interview. First of all, when you want to throw in the towel, that's when you don't do it. No, I'm serious. When you are feeling at your lowest and you feel like there is no way that you can go on, ask yourself what the worst possible thing that could happen is. And more often than not, the worst possible thing is that you'll be exactly where you are that day. And you just gotta strap yourself up and put on your big girl panties and, you know, just slog through, man. Sometimes that's what it takes. That's all creativity is sometimes. It's sitting your bum in the chair and doing your work and showing up. And that's really all you can ask of yourself on any given day, especially when you're feeling really, really shitty. And then go blow things up in video games. The second one is that, you know, good business people are not necessarily born, they're made. And there's tons of learning that you have to do, and there's a huge learning curve for anybody coming into the online world. It's really, really easy to start, but it's really hard to stay. So making sure that you've got a good group of people that are behind you and that can support you, and, you know, be your cheerleaders, because, like, rah, hello. We all need it. We all need a little bit. And number 3, we didn't really talk too much about design, but I do want to add in a little bit, is that design isn't as scary as you think it is. It's extremely accessible, and there are tons of really wonderful web designers out there, not even including yours truly. I know tons of wonderful designers that are all about the context, they're all about the why, they're all about creating beautiful spaces and making the process really accessible for clients. So if you have questions about design, ask somebody. I promise they will not snark at you. And if they do, they're bastards. Ignore them and move on.
That's generally a good rule of thumb for most things.
Yeah, you run into the dicks, you just set them on fire on the internet, and you... Oh, wait, no, we're not advocating trolling, are we? No, that seems like a bad idea. Never mind, scratch that from the record.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, Amanda, for interviewing. I really appreciated it, and it was so nice to get to talk to you and see your pretty face on video. So, and see the little man.
I usually do video. This is really great. Okay, you want to say goodbye to my little guy?
Yes.
Okay, come here, Gooby. Come here. Come see. Come see. Who dat?
Hi, Gabe. Oh, look at how cute you are. Oh, my God.
He's a pretty cute little man. Oh, my goodness. He likes you.